what we did is to devise what we call minimum key responsibilities. These are not requirements, but this is what UEFA thinks that the SLO should be doing, the clubs and the governing body should be doing. So I'll just go through them quickly. The SLO should be available as the main point of contact. I think that's self-explanatory. That the SLO should be responsible for managing the communications flow and dialogue between the fans and the club and the other stakeholders. That the SLO liaises and builds relationships with the various stakeholders. And that the SLO should be credible. So these are the four things. The minimum key responsibilities of the club, well, what's been said is that there should, training is the key. They should ensure that the SLO is able to attend National Association SLO training courses. It's not always been the case. This is what we've learned from Germany, that clubs are often reluctant to send their SLOs to training offerings because it means paying for their transport, paying for the hotel. But you know, we think that the clubs should be doing, that's the very minimum that they should be doing. Providing adequate resources. The smaller clubs won't be able to give the SLO an office for themselves, but at least give them access to computers, fax machines, telephones, all the rest of it, equipment. Give them accreditation to allow them to move around the stadium, to allow them to do their job, their communicating job, giving them an official club email address, etc. Staging regular meetings between the club management and the SLO. This is what it's all about. There's no point having an SLO if you don't meet with them and talk to them and find out what the fans think, what's happening in the fan base, what are the trends, what is the mood, etc., etc. And in the other direction, communicating to supporters what the club thinks, what big reasons behind decisions, etc., etc. Making provision also for regular meetings between the SLO and the various fan groups. That could mean from opening up rooms in stadiums so that the SLO can arrange meetings with supporters, but also where the fan base is spread across the country, making it possible for the SLO to travel out and meet supporters clubs, meet fans who may not be able to come to the stadium themselves. So those are just the minimum key responsibilities, and the fifth one is just self-explanatory, to consult the SLO on matters of relevance to fans. The minimum key responsibilities of governing bodies, and governing bodies are the key. It won't be UEFA who are policing this project and issuing fines to clubs, etc. It's under the principle of subsidiarity, setting it down to the lowest possible local level. It's up to the national associations. In most cases, that's a football association. In Scotland, it's the SFA. And their role really is to develop the project. To develop, coordinate and promote the SLO work that's being done by the clubs. We are there to help them. That's my job, basically. My job is to work with all 53 national associations to help them, because they're new. The Scottish FA is a case in point. This is a new role to them. They have no real understanding of what the SLO role is and what support liaison is about. Someone needs to train them up, and that's the role of supporters direct, and that's my role, to work with the national associations to give them all the information that they need. We've written a handbook, a UEFA SLO handbook. We've provided them with a toolkit of various documents of how they can move the project forward, but it will be up to the national associations and it will be up to the SFA to move the work forward as a kind of a multiplier, to then do the same kind of training with their clubs and with their SLOs. We talked about accreditation, club accreditation. We also would like the SFA, for example, to issue all the SLOs with accreditation, which will then give them access to all the grounds across the country, so that they can visit other SLOs on shadowing visits, etc. Or if there's a game that they think it's useful, that they're there to observe, to see what's happening, to see the way the police work, to see the way the SLOs work, that they should be able to move around and get access to the grounds. Training, as I said, is the key. We're asking all the governing bodies to stage training events, to set out best practice with regard to fan-related issues and the SLO work that the clubs are doing, and to formulate standard procedures and ensure common objectives. And this is something that's not happened yet here. We've had one or two goes at organising a workshop, but for various reasons it's not taking place. But I had communication with the SFA last week, and they've assured me in the new year that hopefully we'll get the first workshop for the SLOs in Scotland. Because this is the key, facilitating the exchange of information and experience. what we've done, the German SLOs, for example, and now the Swedish SLOs, where the work's moved forward very quickly, have made the offer or the invitation to all new SLOs, so any of you, your club SLOs can go to Germany or go to Sweden to visit them to see how they work or how they do their job in those countries on a day-to-day basis. And just as an example of that, the SLO from Manchester City will be visiting Werder Bremen on Wednesday to see how the support liaison team work there, hopefully pick up ideas that they can take back to Manchester. That's basically it. The SLO role in practice, as I say, I apologise for rushing through it. I know we're conscious of time. I was conscious of the need. I hope there will be questions and that we can deal with some of the points in the Q&A session. But what I've done is to say, basically, there are three aspects of the support liaison job that UEFA thinks is important and what the SLO should be concentrating on. The first one is obviously communication. We've talked about that. I asked the SLO, Borussia Mönchengladbach, once to describe his job in 3 words, and he said talking, talking, talking. Yeah, on the phone all the day, all day, every day, talking to the safety officer, talking to the police, talking to supporters, talking to transport companies, talking to the club management, the board, even the coach. Talking, 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 ensuring that communication is taking place and that everyone understands each other better. Sharing information with all the main stakeholders. The second aspect is service. I don't just mean service to fans getting players' autographs and stuff like that. Providing as I say, providing all the information for supporters so that they know what's expected of them, where they can go, what they can do when they go to the away games, etc. Organising fan materials, maybe not so much the case in Scotland, but certainly in Germany, where there are lots of flags and stuff like that, and megaphones and all the rest of it, making all those arrangements with the clubs, making sure everything runs smoothly. But the service that the SLOs can provide to the club, it can range from advising them on merchandise, for example, what kind of merchandise they think supporters are more likely to buy, advising them, attending press conferences on their behalf to talk about supporter-related issues, advising them, as I say, the views of the fans about ticket increases, ticket price increases, etc., etc. Just basically giving them the advice from the point of view of the supporters, so that hopefully clubs will not make decisions that prove costly in the end because they haven't consulted the supporters in the first place, and then they have to go back and change those decisions, etc., etc.